All engine running. Liftoff. We have a liftoff. 32 minutes past the hour. Liftoff on Apollo 11.
Neil Armstrong reporting the roll and pitch program, which puts Apollo 11 on a proper heading.
Active FM, this is the Void Show. Well, let me just start by first recognizing your presence, honorable member. Let me just first start by recognizing that you are here with us today. I think it's really great to have you around. I think it's really great to have you listening. So thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you so much for joining us on this week's episode. I hope you've been keeping well. I hope you've been excited. I hope you've been wanting to learn new stuff. You've been praying. You've been feeding your curiosity. And lastly, you've been having a fantastic week, right? Fair enough. I've been so excited. I have actually been extremely excited. And one main reason for that, if you should know, is because of what we are speaking about today, right? It's gravity. And let me just tell you, I've been looking forward to discuss gravity with you, right? To learn more about gravity, okay? And I want to believe that almost everyone knows what gravity is, right? Or at least what it does, okay? But as for knowing where the name came from, hey, what's the history behind gravity? Because I can tell you, the name gravity is not eternal, right? Somebody came up with it, right? It must have came up at some point in our lifetime. Well, it may not be my lifetime, but certainly someone's lifetime, right? So those are just some of the things we're going to be discussing today, and I have really been looking forward to it. I hope you're excited and you are keen to learn more about gravity. This is the Void Show on Active FM. As we all and always say, that radio has never been better. I am your show host, Andrew, and yeah, your show host of all time, right? Well, I'm very careful with what I'm saying these days, and thanks to some people, right? Well, let's speak a little bit about gravity, right? So, I think I should just say that gravity is most probably one of the very first things that a child learns, right? Well, they might not realize that they are learning this, but it somehow finds a way to be planted in their minds, right? And that's because it's a regularity, okay? It's what happens. It's a norm, okay? So, things that usually happen, we're familiar with them, and so sometimes we don't realize them, okay, or their power, things like that, okay. So yeah, it's one of the very first things that we learn. They realize or they see that when we throw things up, they come back to earth, okay. That's an observation. That's what they see, right? Maybe they see that objects normally bend towards the direction they're gonna fall to, right? Like your skipping rope, a skipping rope. We used to play it when we were young. I don't anymore, and that's okay, right? But a skipping rope is a good example of that. You have two people at both ends of the skipping rope, and when they get close to each other, what happens? The skipping rope bends, okay? In which direction? In the direction that it wants to fall to. Okay, so these are just some of the basic things that we see, right? It's an observation, okay? But why does that happen? Why does that happen? How does it affect us? That's what we're going to be speaking about, right? And before that, let me just share a quick story, and a great story, actually, that influenced and, that formed... let me just say that it somehow formed the basis of what we know about gravity, right? And it's a good story, but I'm going to be sharing that with you right after this, so make sure that you stay tuned.
I love Active FM!
Active FM.
Radio The hottest music.
Heart of the city don't love 'em. Hungry, I came out the jungle. Got a grip on it, won't fumble. I'm ready, I'm literate.
Active FM.
Great. So the time is now, and now is the time when we want to learn and get insights, okay, about gravity, okay. We want to feed our curiosity, okay. Maybe some of your profound questions about gravity will be answered today. So make sure that you stay tuned, okay. Do not forget as well to get in touch with us. Send in your questions. What do you think about gravity? Do you have questions about gravity? Do you want to share with us anything odd about gravity? We are there on WhatsApp, +27845451166. It is +27845451166. So send in your questions there. I will be waiting so passionately to see some of those questions, and we're going to be answering them if you send them on next week's episode, right? So yeah, here's a story about gravity. Now, this is, a story that formed the basis of our knowledge of gravity, okay? It's a very interesting story, so you want to make sure that you listen. Now, you see, our ancestors, right, like the ancients, people who lived in the past, they have always been aware of what was happening around them. They've always been aware. And let me just first say that it amazes me. I always question myself on, I just wonder how these people lived, hey? I think they were so brilliant. I really do think they were intelligent. Their knowledge about the universe, like even not only the universe, but other things as well. It was a profound knowledge, because you can imagine that back in the past, there was no Google, There's no Google. Right now, you want to know something, you just search on Google and you found it, right? So this does not allow us to think, it does not allow us to think, right? You spend literally 7 minutes on Google and you think you've learned a lot of stuff, right? That's what happens really, and this was not the case back in the past. These people had to think, right? They were so innovative. They had to create things. They were creators, right? So you can imagine when someone was sick, they had to think what they had to do, the medicine, all of that. That's another story. But I was just sharing that I really do think that they were so, profoundly intelligent, deeply intelligent, by the way, right? So yeah, back in time, these people were so aware. They were aware of what was happening around them, okay? They saw that when we throw things up or when we drop things at a distance, they do what? They come back to Earth, right? And so they tried by all means to explain this observation, okay? They tried by all means to explain this. And let me just tell you, that is what science is, okay? That's what science is. Science tries to understand the universe, okay? It tries by all means to see observations, right? See phenomena that are taking place in the universe, and it then attempts to do what? To explain the phenomena, to explain the observation, okay, with valid reasons, with consistent reasons, okay? That's what science is, right? Your laws of nature, if you look at them, they only describe what is already happening in the universe. Like what we're discussing today, that's one of the laws of nature, right? It's the law of gravity. It does what? It describes what happens in the universe, okay? But one thing that's interesting about laws of nature is that they can predict the future, okay? They can predict the future. If that breaks down, then it's not a law of nature, right? It's not a universal law, right? That's what science is. And I think that's where it gets wrong. You see, just other few explanations of the universe, those are laws of nature, right? As an example of them would be the law of gravity, right? We have thermodynamics as well. We've got laws of thermodynamics, right? And what is thermodynamics? Thermodynamics is a branch of physics that basically studies heat, okay? It studies heat transformations, it studies heat transfers, like your temperature, your energy, right? That all forms part of thermodynamics. Okay, these days we usually measure our temperatures. Okay, that's a thermometer. That tool we use to measure temperature is called a thermometer, and it forms part of what? Of thermodynamics. Okay, so there are laws in there that explain nature. Things like your Big Bang, right? These are scientifically consistent and literate explanations to describe phenomena or to describe nature, right? And so we see a lot of people trying to deny this. And let me just tell you what I think the reason is for that, okay? The reason for a lot of people to find conflict of what science says, I think it's because maybe there's a bit of misunderstanding of what science is. Okay, there's a bit of misunderstanding of what science is. Okay, that's why we find science deniers are trying to deny what science says. Okay, or maybe trying to compare science with other things, right? Maybe they might compare it with, I don't know, other concepts, or maybe other things. That's okay, but the basis of that conflict, it's because of misunderstanding the definition of science, or the definition of what they're comparing science with, right? What is science? It's what we use to understand the universe. So if you're gonna deny what science says, if you're gonna deny the law of gravity, then you better come up with a law that's better than what we already have, right? That's what happens in science. If you're gonna deny this, don't tell me that you deny it because you think. No, it ain't working like that, right? If you're gonna deny law what science says, then you better come up with something that's scientifically literate. Okay, scientifically literate and scientifically consistent to describe what you're denying, right? Okay, you're just gonna deny things because you think they're not true, right? So I think we should be very careful of how we define what science is. By the way, I just got off topic, but then we were speaking about these people, right? These ancient people. They were trying to describe what they saw. Okay, to describe what they saw. Why do things fall down to the earth? And here's an interesting explanation that they came up with. They said that Earth is probably the natural resting place of all objects. Did you get that? They said the reason why all of this is happening is because Earth is the natural resting place of all objects. That's what they thought. Because it was fair to say that, right? It was fair to say that because you see things, when we throw them up, they want to come back down to earth. You see, you drop things at a distance, they want to come back to earth. So it was only fair to say that earth serves as a natural resting place of every object, right? And what does that? What did that mean? It meant that, for example, let's take your bed, okay? Your bed is your resting place, right? It may not be your natural resting place, but it's your resting place, right? And so with that, you might understand why they said Earth is a natural resting place, because it's not. It's a natural, right? It's natural resting place, right? So with your bed, you go up all week, right? You work all week, you drive to shop, you drive to work, you do all things, and on Friday you say thanks God it's Friday, and you want to go back to your bed and sleep, right? So that's your resting place, okay? That's a rest. You will rest there. You eventually go back to it, right? So it's the same thing with that explanation of them, of our ancient people. They said Earth is probably the resting place of all objects, right? And philosophers were included there. A lot of people were included there. But can I tell you one interesting thing? scientists now have a much more satisfactory explanation of why those things happen. Okay, of why those things happen, right? And this was actually worked out by one of the 17th century scientists. He was a great philosopher, a great English mathematician, Sir Isaac Newton, right? He described a lot of things. Your gravity, he described it. You see, optics, he invented differential calculus, integral calculus, right? So he was quite a phenomenal guy, and we spoke about him last week. If you haven't checked out that show, you might just want to go check it out, right? You might just want to go check it out right after this one. So he is the man who described what gravity is. Okay, very phenomenal guy. So let me tell you what he did. And bear in mind, a lot of things he discovered them during lockdown. It was during lockdown. Can you believe it? If you don't know about that, go check out our last week's episode. We were speaking about his life, right? So what basically Newton was trying to find out, he was trying to just find out, like, why are all the planets in our solar system moving in their definite orbits, okay? That's an observation. So he saw that. And so he just wondered and tried to explain or tried to find reasons on why these planets, Mercury, Mars, Venus, Earth, right, and other planets, why are they orbiting the sun in their orbits, like in those definite orbits? Why are they orbiting the sun like that, right? They moving like that around the sun. And so this is what he said. Right. I mean, you can imagine if you right, and you are on your hand, you are holding a rope, right, or a string, and at the end of the string you plucked some sort of a mess, right? Maybe a ball, a golf ball, right, or something like that. You plucked it, and then you swing a string around yourself. Right, you swing your string around yourself. So this is how he imagined this could happen, because it's the sun at the center, and you have all these other planets orbiting in their definite paths, right, around the sun, right? So he then compared these two things. He was like, okay, it's probably the same thing. It's probably because the sun is having all these other planets orbiting itself. But there was a difference, right? Because he noticed that, but no, not really. Because it seems like the planets are not connected in any way to the sun, right? It's not like there's a string from the sun to Earth, right? The sun keeps swinging Earth around itself, right? It's not like that, right? But with what he compared it to, a boy or yourself with, you having a rope and you swinging it around yourself, there's a mechanical connection between yourself and the ball, okay? It's a rope. It was not the same thing with the sun and the planet. And so he was like, now here's a complex thing that I need to check out, right? There is no mechanical connection between the sun and the planets. And then he came up to a conclusion. He was like, okay, this is an action at a distance phenomena, right? Because I can see that there should be some connection between these two things. It's just that I cannot see it. So he came up with a conclusion, and he said, well, planets keep revolving around the sun because of only one reason, and it can only be that. And he said it's probably because these bodies attract one another. That's what he said. Right? That's what he said. And so he made a careful analysis of, what he saw. This action at a distance, right? I would believe that he put thousands of hours into that. He made an analysis of the paths of planets around the sun, he made a lot of that, and he developed his famous law of universal gravitation. And what does his law say? When things go up, they eventually gonna come down, right? But the law that he actually developed said every particle in the universe attracts every other particle with a force that is proportional to the product of their masses and inversely proportional to the square of the distance between their centers, right? And so that's the universal law of gravity, and that is described pretty well by mathematics. Okay, there's a lot of mathematics that goes behind that, but just the basic of this: when the same forces that holds the planets in motion are the same forces that apply when I throw an object up and it comes down. And then he said this action at a distance is called gravitation. That's what he said. That's the conclusion that he came up with, right? So you enjoying this? I'm hoping you're enjoying this. And we're gonna go for a song, right? We're gonna go for a song. We're still having a good time. I'm hoping you're still enjoying the show. Here's a beautiful jam by Cyrus Smith, saying to you, frail. Enjoy.
Frail. No more fight, no more fight. No more cry, no more cry. Cry skin with a vibe. New vibe from the side. By the grace we are alive. No soul would deny. My spirit on the line. Neither came for my life. You made me strong when I'm frail. I will preach for my king. I will serve all my life. I will die for the gospel. I'm alive by the king. Grace, grace, get my lights on. Grace, grace, get me new song. No more works, no more power. By the grace of my life, I'm never gonna bust. I'm putting my life on the line. Risking my life for the Lord. No time to choose side. But the devil came with the two side. Kept the faith with the vibe. Yeah, I keep it real with my time. Yeah, I ain't losing anymore. Winning is my tire. Hakuna Matata. Praying for grace for my brothers. Praying for love for my sisters, mothers and fathers. Feeling so high we made it. Feeling so blessed I made it. Cry is the reason why I did it. Feeding the soul with a king song. Killing my pride for the new joy. Praying for peace for my heart. I never go die, never go die. Yeah, I came with a mantle. Full of grace from the most high. My life is a statement I never go fail. My God is the greatest and nothing go stand against me. Oh Lord, it's a new vibe. In love with the raps and it's too raw like a siren. In love with the people you created, I'm thrilled. I give you my life, I know that you feel me. I'm calling your name, I know that you hear me. I give you my all, I give you my life. Yeah, I'm feeling so blessed. I'm feeling so blessed. I know that I'm thrilled. I know that I'm thrilled. Yeah. I ain't selling my soul anymore. God is the greatest, the King of kings. I'm a child of a king, the mighty God. Yeah. Side. Switch. Whoa. Switch.
And that is Cyrus Smith saying to you, frail. Thank you so much for still being here. I mean, if you're still here, it means you're loving what we're speaking about today, right? Please do not forget to get in touch with us on all our social media platforms. It's at Active FM. You can definitely get us everywhere, right? Literally everywhere. So do send in your questions as well. We are keen to see some of those questions or your comments, right? Literally anything you want to say about what we're speaking about today, right? So yeah, law of gravity, that's where we ended before this beautiful jam, okay, of Cyrus Smith saying to you, frail. So yes, Newton then realized that, right, and he came up with the law of gravity, okay, the universal law of gravity. It's called universal because it is universal, okay, so it doesn't really matter where you are, then it applies. And there are some exceptions as well, which we're not going to cover today, right? You'd find that Albert Einstein and then showed up. Then he, showed actually that Newton's law does not apply exactly when we deal with the speeds that are approaching the speeds of light. Okay, and we in such cases we use calculations from the relativity theory. Okay, but that's another story. Today we're speaking about Newton's view of gravity. Okay, so that's what we're speaking about today. And of course, he came up with this law of gravity, and what it basically says. The law of gravity applies to all masses. Okay, if a thing has a mass, the law of gravity applies. Okay, it just needs to have a mass. You've got a mass. Earth has a mass. That's why you pulled by Earth. Okay, to Earth's surface. Okay, it doesn't matter where the objects are located. It applies. Okay, it explains why when you have an orange in your hand, it would fall to your ground, right? When you drop it, okay, from your hand, it explains why the skipping rope kind of like, bends, kind of like sags. That's a good word, kind of like sags when it is held by two people in the two opposite ends. Okay, why it kind of like sags, it is kind of like slung between two people. Okay, it explains that. That's what the law of gravity does. Okay, it explains why planets orbit around the sun. Okay, it kind of like explains why they rolling, they moving in their paths around the sun. Okay, and so with the kind of mathematics that Newton gave us to describe gravity, right? The universal law of gravity, it is backed up by thorough mathematical formulae and analysis. Okay, and we believe in mathematics. It works. It ain't working because we believe it's working. It works whether we believe it or not. Okay, so that's the thing. With the mathematics that we have, we are able to analyze the strength of the gravitational force, and we are able to confidently predict the motion of planets. Okay, that's what I meant earlier when I said we can literally predict the future. With the law of gravity, with the universal law of gravity, we are able to predict the motion of the planets, right? That's why we can predict when the solar eclipse will happen. Okay, we know this ages before it happens, right? That's because, you see, the universe is beautiful. God made it in such a way that it's consistent, right? It does not change because we feel angry. It's like that. Okay, it happens like that. And so we analyze the path of these bodies and put in some mathematics there, put in some science there. Too much science, can't take it anymore. Put in a bit of that, and we are able to predict the motions of the planets. That's why you'll hear scientists saying that in this time there will be Mars seen in the sky. It will be at its closest point to Earth. You see, that's why we can speak things like that, because there's mathematics that's involved, and we can use it to analyze that, and works pretty well. So that's it. And here's another story, and this is what I'm going to end with. Okay, you're going to love this. So you see, back in time, and this follows what I've just said right now, that we can literally predict the motions of planets. Okay, even though most planets' motions were predicted, right, with mathematics, there was one puzzle that kind of like disturbed astronomers for some time. Okay, so astronomers observed the planet Uranus. Okay, Uranus, right? It's one of the giant planets that are whirling at the edges, kind of like no edges really, but then at the ends of our solar system. Okay, so they looked at planet Uranus. Okay, and the motion of this planet around the sun was quite a weird one, eh? It was kind of weird one, because this planet, Uranus, it should have somewhat, followed a different path or a different course if the law of gravity held true. Okay, it should have had a certain kind of motion, right? If we would use the law of gravity. Okay, and scientists were amazed because now this planet really had a weird motion and it denied the law of gravity. right? So that's what happened, and a lot of astronomers were, they were involved, independently. Some of them working independently, and later they found the cause of this thing. It just happens that Uranus apparently was attracted, not only by the sun, but it was also attracted by another planet. Hey, and that marked the beginning, or not the beginning, but that marked the discovery of a planet Neptune. That's when planet Neptune was discovered. So you see, with things like that, they do not only reveal the power of mathematics, but they really also tell us that mathematics actually works. Right? You put on some mathematics there and you discover a planet with mathematics. Literally crazy. I hope you had a great time with us today. Right after this, I'll be sharing something for the last time.
Active, worship, active, oh, hey, active, worship, Active Worship, you can find us on the gram, you feel me? Instagram at Active Worship, we on books, you feel me? Facebook, click the follow since you're in it, keep listening. Apple Music, oh, it got you dancing, keep streaming. Spotify, it got you smiling, keep streaming. Oh, and Deezer, got your moves looking easy, cause we cool like that. Search Active Worship and listen, cause we cool like that. Christ music is hot music.
Check out their music by Active Worship on all platforms.
Oh yes, and apparently we have reached the end of the Void show today. It's a sad time really to get to, but I really appreciate you having came through. I mean, if you are at this point, it means you really love what we're speaking about, and so a big cheer to you actually for joining us today. I hope you learned a lot of stuff about gravity, right? I really hope you did. And by the way, you can find us literally everywhere: Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. You can find us there. Just search Active FM 777. You can find us there. But a safe platform for you to get us, all the shows on Active FM. It's at Active FM, well, activefm.co.za. Right? You can find us there. We are on iTunes podcast, Google podcast, YouTube, right? Spotify, Gab, Pala, Reddit, Anchor. We literally everywhere. So you can definitely find us there. And so from me, myself, and I really appreciate having you around. It was a great time. I will see you next time. Same place. Have a phenomenal week ahead of you.
Active FM. Radio has never been better.